Welcome to the Sourcing Industry Landscape podcast, hosted by Dawn Tura, CEO and President of SIG.
Folks, I am so excited to tell you who's in the studio today. I have with me today Keith Hausmann. Now, he's with a company called Globality, and we're going to get into that in a minute, but he's also the Chief Revenue Officer. And this is the first time I've had a Chief Revenue Officer on my podcast. So I'm really excited to have you here today, Keith. So welcome.
Thanks, Don. Look forward to having a chat with you.
Yeah, so before we get into who Globality is, I'd like to talk a little bit about who Keith is. So you've had a very interesting career, but tell me, what was your journey? How did you get to Globality?
I was running Accenture's managed service business in procurement and supply chain up until about a year ago. And I had an observation that a lot of what was being done in procurement in general was quite similar to what was being done in procurement 30 years ago when I started my career. Yes, things had been digitized, but things had not really changed in a transformative, massive way, as we've seen in our consumer lives and lots of other parts of the world. And I started to look for startups that were disruptors, changing fundamentally the way procurement works. And as I got to know a number of different firms, but Globality in particular, I became very, very intrigued and wanted to take the next step in my career, doing something that was just utterly changing the game and how procurement is done, how sourcing is done, how suppliers are engaged and found, et cetera. And Globality was the place that intrigued me the most. So I ultimately ended up talking with our CEO, Joel Hyatt, and we came to an agreement that through an orchestrated process, I would join Globality as the Chief Revenue Officer. And it's been a great change, great opportunity for me. But it started with my role at Accenture, where we were looking for technology partners who were really doing something unique and different in the procurement space.
Okay, so now you've piqued my interest. I'm going to jump right into Globality, because now I want to know, after 30 years, you're saying that people aren't really changing the processes. We've digitized them. So what is so groundbreaking about Globality?
Yeah, I think a couple things. Number one, we've thought about the source to contract or the source to statement of work process in a very different way from the eyes of the business stakeholder. In other words, the business stakeholder, who is the customer of procurement, they're used to a whole different world in their personal lives and their consumer lives, very consumer-like experience, very agile and fast buying processes, extremely digital, very instantaneous, and very, very fast. Globality has reimagined the way sourcing is done, or the way it's thought about, from the eyes of the business stakeholder and how they want to experience a buying or a sourcing process uniquely and similarly to the way they do in their consumer lives, their personal lives, their out-of-work lives. That was the first big thing, or big difference that I see with Globality. The second really is, how could sourcing be made more autonomous or more self-service? In other words, how could you put the process reimagined using AI in the hands of a business stakeholder so that, in fact, you can uplift the role of procurement to be that category strategist, to be that relationship manager, be that innovator, and leverage their truly human skills as opposed to the traditional kind of running RFP type activities that just sort of, I think, bogged down many procurement people and procurement departments in general. So that was really a second really big difference. And I think the third was we wanted to, Globality has a notion that the services world, or the spend that goes on in marketing and IT and finance and HR and legal, that those stakeholders more often than not are looking for ways to go around procurement, not because they don't like the people or they don't like the function or they don't respect what it's doing, but because they need something more fast and more agile. And I saw Globality finding a way to bring those people into the procurement process, not by way of saying compliance is the lever, but by way of saying the experience, the speed, the simplicity, the agility of the process is now attractive to them, and therefore they're coming into the procurement process in a way that they never really did before. So those are the sort of the big things that Globality is approaching different, really making it a consumer-like process, really making it an agile process, and imagining how a business stakeholder would want to experience procurement or sourcing rather than how sourcing has traditionally done it.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to always, say that nobody wants sourcing done to them. They don't want to be sourced. They don't want to have to know our processes. So
Right.
you are so spot on with that. So
Right.
so I guess from the user experience, and in this case the business unit, do they bypass procurement completely, or does procurement set up the foundation? How does that work?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, the answer is no, they don't bypass procurement. What procurement now is able to do is take a category strategy for consulting services or ad agencies or media, whatever it is, and operationalize it in Globality. So they can execute what they've strategically put in place as the way they want to approach the sourcing of those types of categories, again, legal or IT or management consulting, et cetera. And procurement is really now watching and guiding and coaching their business customer, their stakeholder through the process, as opposed to sort of, I'll say, very manually sort of driving them through, a 7-step or an RFP type process. So procurement is very much involved, but now more as a strategist and a coach, as opposed to a heavy lifter, if you will.
It's funny. I think I'm going to have the 7 steps. Even if I'm in my deathbed with dementia, I'm still going to know the 7-step process.
Right, exactly. It's been around since the 80s, and it's still around.
And it's still around. Yeah. So I love the way you're approaching it. So you mentioned AI, machine. I know you guys write about machine learning. So right, I want to go there, but give me a second. I want to step back one step. I still, as a procurement person, I still am in charge of the contracts, the T's and C's, the statement of work, those type of items. I mean, we don't eliminate that piece of it, right?
No, we don't eliminate it. We seek to automate it, if you will, meaning the end result of a sourcing process. You've collected a set of artifacts, you've collected a set of information, you've come to understand scope, requirements, pricing, commercial structures. You've gathered a bunch of information, and we seek to automate the creation of that SOW or contract instrument at the end of the sourcing process using our technology platform, rather than yet another manual step of, oh, I've completed sourcing and now I have to write this all down manually or copy and paste it, from my sourcing artifacts into my template, et cetera. So yes, that step still exists, but we've made it a much more elegant, automated process rather than, a team of people or a person, typing out, writing out, plopping in different types of information into a template. We've done that for the procurement person so that they can then really focus on negotiating the finer points or more challenging points, as opposed to the manual effort of creating those types of documents. But the process of contracting certainly still exists.
So I know you guys write a lot about machine learning and AI. So I want to go there. Is that machine learning and AI, is that around the procurement process, or is it learning what my business unit wants? How does that fit into Globality?
Yeah, probably the easiest way to do that is to give you a few examples, and I'll give 2 or 3. But a first example in a journey on our platform where AI is being leveraged is we refer to it as like unpacking the complex intent that a business stakeholder has. So a business stakeholder in finance or marketing, they know what they want to accomplish. They have an idea of it in their head. And our AI Glow basically interfaces with that person to unpack their intent, unpack what they need to have done into a clear, precise, accurate digital scope. So that's the first thing, is interacting with the business stakeholder, asking them extremely savvy and intelligent questions, and ultimately getting to the point of, we now understand, and there is an artifact of what the requirements are that can be shared with the supplier. So that's the first, is basically going from intent to a real scope, a real demand that could be tendered or put into a sourcing process. That's one moment. Another moment is what we call matching. Matching is sort of a typical AI term, but matching is basically predicting who the best suppliers will be or could be for that demand that I just described on the platform that's going on. So that's a second moment. And I always make this joke. I mean, if you are a consumer and you were looking for a vacation home and you went to Vrbo or Airbnb, you would have instantaneous matches of vacation homes that met your needs. There is really no such similar thing in procurement, instantaneous matching of your needs and desires and wishes to a set of suppliers. So matching is a separate, as a second moment that's really, really important, sort of in the AI and the machine learning as a second example. A third would be, and it does get to your point about personalization to the company or even the person, but let's say, for instance, our business stakeholder is the head of media in the marketing department, or the treasurer in the finance department. As they go through the journey on the platform and they evaluate suppliers, right? They rate suppliers for how well they performed in proposal processes, how well they performed in the actual execution, delivery of service downstream. The machine takes that into consideration. So if I'm, that persona, that business stakeholder, I would not want to be matched to somebody that I had previously and repeatedly rated poorly. I would want to be matched to suppliers that have been rated very well, not only by me or my organization, but by other companies in the marketplace. So that's a third moment, really, which is creating that closed loop of how are suppliers performing in the proposal and execution process, and taking that into consideration in the matching algorithm. That would be kind of another a third example of where machine learning and AI is coming into play. But fundamentally, all through the journey, Glow, who is our sourcing advisor, the brand name of it or the name of it, is taking the person through the journey and explaining what's happening at all steps and guiding them on where to go, what to do, how to achieve the outcome and the results they want to in the time they want to. But so the entire framework of the journey is driven by an advisor that knows what the journey should be, knows the category, and knows what company they're working with.
Okay, so so I've got a couple things. You said that
Sure.
that it's going to bring me additional suppliers. Are these only suppliers that have been ranked through Globality through all your customers? So it's a closed network of companies you've already worked with, or does it actually go out to the world at large? Or help me, where are the suppliers from?
Great question. Fundamentally, you could probably think about the marketplace as having three sources, and it is closed, but it's fairly big in size.
Okay.
Our supplier marketplace is about 25,000 different suppliers, and they come from three chunks. One is the preferred suppliers with whom our customers have relationships with and would like to drive spend toward. They typically have MSAs with those suppliers. So that's one. When a customer engages with us and they start to implement, they onboard their preferred suppliers, the account managers of the suppliers, et cetera. And more often than not, we know who those suppliers already are, but those are typically the big firms that we all know about and can sort of rattle off the top of our heads. That's one source. The second source is stakeholders all the time hear about suppliers that are doing something interesting from their colleagues, from their peers. So they will oftentimes suggest suppliers in the process of going through the journey on Globality. So they will say, I've heard great things about this supplier. Can I include them? They then become part of our marketplace as a recommended new supplier that a stakeholder would like to potentially engage with. The third is what we call the Globality service providers. This is a network of suppliers that we go out, research, curate, and vet. And we vet them every quarter on financial, regulatory, legal, cultural fit elements to make sure they are the right kind of suppliers, passing those vetting criteria to be exposed to our customers in the marketplace. And the Globality service providers are typically small and medium-sized businesses and or diverse businesses. We do believe fundamentally as a company that, which is where the name Globality comes from, that there are thousands of hidden gem suppliers, fantastic service providers that just are not well known by many of our customers. And we do seek to make them more digitally visible and apparent so that we can increase the level of inclusion that is really happening in a supplier in a marketplace such as Globality. So all three of those are sources.
Of it. That is such a cool thing to be able to do. Now, if I'm a supplier, can I come to you and ask for you to vet me? Can I?
Yes. Yeah, it happens all the time, and suppliers do approach us on a regular basis. And the answer is yes, you can. We wouldn't necessarily pass them through to our marketplace unless they passed our vetting criteria, which we do every quarter just to make sure that something hasn't changed with a particular supplier. But yes, once they are vetted, we invite them; they become part of the marketplace, and that has probably been hundreds, if not thousands, of the suppliers in our marketplace have come in through them requesting and us vetting and ultimately inviting them into the marketplace.
Guess what's going to happen after this podcast? You're going to be getting a lot of requests. So interesting. So 3 different ways to get my suppliers. If I, let's say I'm a supplier on your network and I've been rated poorly by one company, am I automatically kicked out, or does my bad rating carry over? Does everyone see that I got a bad grade over here when it might have been situational?
Yeah, the answer is no. I don't want to necessarily get into, nor am I good at getting into sort of super, detailed notions of how the algorithm works. But no, we basically have to create a distribution of the feedback. So 1 point of bad feedback means almost nothing. 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 or 12, that would really start to mean something and demonstrate, hey, this supplier isn't trending well. Maybe you should think twice about that. So no, one instance wouldn't do much. And furthermore, we don't directly expose the rating of one person at one customer to one person at another customer. The customer sees only the ratings directly of their own enterprise. The ratings coming from other companies influence the matching algorithms and other pieces, but we want to make it fair and reasonable. And as you know, Don, I mean, when a supplier is rated not well, there's often more sides to the story than that one situation or that one example, and we have to guard against that in our algorithms.
Wow. So just to describe Globality a little bit more, it is all services spend. Is that correct?
Well, it's what we call high value business services or strategic services. Just to put it in a nutshell, it is marketing, it is IT, it is HR, it is legal, and it is professional services or consulting. So there are things like construction, which is not a business service, or architectural. There are things that in the services world we don't do. Okay. But the good news is the AI can be taught different categories, and we will teach it different categories over time. A lot of customers are demanding, facilities or real estate or workplace services, and we're going to jump on that and teach the AI how to think about that category next. But to date, we've really focused on those high value business services, where there's a high propensity for the stakeholders to go around the traditional procurement process.
You mentioned some of the hardest categories to source right there, or legal. Yeah. And nobody wants to touch marketing. It's, because you can never, ever please marketing with a sourcing engagement. So for you to be able to tackle the toughest categories that I've ever sourced and to be able to create AI that's a godsend to so many sourcing professionals.
We did intentionally start with the complex stuff because we thought that the use case for AI was just more valuable in those categories. Things that are a part number or a widget or, describable by a picture or an image. There are other, companies and entities that are going after that space. And we really wanted to be in the blue ocean of the complex services.
This is fantastic. So when you go after a category or for a company, and you talked about pleasing the stakeholders, your business units. Right. One thing procurement has always wanted to do is be more consultative, become the strategic advisor to the business units. And we're not often seen that way. So is this something that as you roll out Globality, does it allow me more time to be more strategic with my business units, for me to have more time to sit and really listen to their needs and understand their persona? How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer to that question is yes, and let me be more specific. Our customers, we don't really know what their productivity levels or their throughput capabilities are. So they tell us that when they're sourcing roles change to be more of a coach and advisor rather than an RFP 7-step heavy lifter, that they become something in the order of 70 to 80% more productive, and therefore can do 3 times as much sourcing, or however you want to think about it. Or probably more importantly to your question, they can afford 20 hours a week, 25 hours a week, 30 hours a week doing strategic human things, like developing those business relationships, like thinking about their category strategies, like doing joint innovation with their suppliers. So yes, because the AI is doing the heavy lifting, driving the process, and giving procurement more of a watcher, coach, advisor role, they can do a lot more, and exactly those types of things that you've described. And in my last company that I came from, that you mentioned, we talked about earlier, companies would hire us to do the sourcing work so they could free up their people to do true category strategy, business relationship type work. And in a way, we're doing something similar. We're just using technology to do it rather than moving the work to a different human team, if you will. But yeah, the answer to your question is unequivocally, and it probably is the most important thing we're doing for the procurement function, really freeing them up to do things that AI can't do. AI can't develop a relationship, and AI can't do design thinking innovation workshops or Kaizen workshops, with a supplier. AI can't do those things. What it can do is guide and deliver a sourcing process, a complex transaction, but nevertheless a transaction.
Yeah, and I've been talking to people all the time about their war for talent, and smart people don't want to do dumb repetitive work. And by having the 7 steps and having all this automation, smart people want to do smart work. They want to be strategic. Those are the type of people you want. You don't want the people that just want to push paper all day. So it's so exciting to hear what you're able to do. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but I want to ask, now you've got me so interested, and I'm always trying to keep these under a half hour, but I really want to ask, are you a standalone platform? Can you be integrated into some of the big guys? And you are not an MSP or VMS. Can you answer all that in 2 seconds?
Yes, I can try to answer all that in 2 seconds. So yes, if you think about it, we are a buying channel, a sourcing and buying channel for high value complex services that would integrate to virtually any chassis, ERP, e-procurement platform. We all know who they are, but yes, we do integrate with those platforms, and we do actually make the journey on those platforms that much better and bring spend into those platforms in a compliant way. So the answer is absolutely yes. We are not a standalone platform. We are part of the overall ecosystem, which for most companies involves some sort of chassis system of record, where purchase orders and contracts are held and things of that nature. So matching and invoicing downstream. So we are not standalone. We are an integrated part of their ecosystem. And no, we are not an MSP. We are a platform or a marketplace that matches companies, buying companies, with other companies. So we're not trying to match companies with freelancers or individuals or a temporary labor person coming from a temporary labor firm. So no, we're not an MSP or VMS. We are really tackling more SOW-based services that are bought between 2 companies who are trying to create an outcome together through the sourcing journey, and then ultimately a contract to deliver services.
I am so glad I had a chance to talk to you, because I always tell people, there are some really good, sourcing or procurement platforms out there, but nobody is best in class in every single, part of their system. And you have to go out there and look for the emerging companies that are really the niche providers who really understand something and tear it down where the big guys just don't. They might buy a company, but they don't do it the way the way Globality is doing it. So I am so excited. This is probably one of the reasons that Spend Matters brought you up to us and said, you have to know Globality, because they are always looking for, the top niche companies that are out there that are really solving something and giving it their all. So this is really cool.
Well, I'm glad we were able to talk about it, and look forward to keeping you abreast of what's going on at Globality as we continue our mission to change the way source to contract is done, and making it fit for purpose for the business stakeholders in marketing and IT and legal and so forth.
Well, if you can just make those categories easier, every single company who's a member of SIG could use you.
I
So.
I agree. I agree with you.
Well, that's great. So, folks, this is Keith Hausmann. He is the Chief Revenue Officer at Globality. And if you're like me and didn't know enough about them before today, you've got to go out, you've got to listen to more of what Keith has to say and research. And go to Spend Matters. I know they've got some good write-ups on them, but boy, Keith, you really, you made me happy this afternoon. I found a truly niche supplier that I had no idea that this is all that you did. So thank you.
Thanks, Don. Yep.
Thank you for listening. Subscribe to the Sourcing Industry Landscape podcast through iTunes or your favorite podcast app. Want to nominate someone for an interview? Email us at info@sig.org.